Hello, everyone. We're pleased to be back for the eighth edition of White Belt MMA interviews. And then for the eighth episode, we're happy to have Shawnee Mack. So, Shawnee Mack on Instagram, he has over 11,000 followers on Instagram. And yeah, man, this dude's a grinder. Every day he's posting something about MMA related. He has his occasional interviews here and there. So, how you doing, Sean? How you doing today?
Yeah, what's up, brother? You know what? I ain't shit, but I love MMA. I love the community, and I love linking up and doing shit like this. So, yeah, I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, I got you, man. I'm happy to have you on. So yeah, man, let's just get right to it. So what made you get into MMA? So like for me, the thing that got me into watching MMA was the first Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva fight. I was just a little kid, just browsing to the channels, and then as to that, like how they would have like the cheesy direct TV like pay-per-view promos. And then pretty much I just looked at my dad and I was just there like, "Yo, can we buy this?" I mean, obviously he was a little skeptical because he was just like, dude, like these two peeps are just like beating the crap out of each other. You know what I mean? Like at the
Yeah,
time, I'm coming from like a Hispanic background, so they didn't really understand the sport.
yeah,
But like, yeah, dude, we all know how that fight was. Fight's legendary. Chael's just beating on Anderson for like the first like five and a half rounds, and then rounds gets Anderson gets that triangle. So that's the way I got into MMA. So I just want to know what the way you got into MMA, and then we just go from there.
yeah, for sure, man. First of all, I'm gonna throw a cheap Instagram plug in there. At OGShawnymack on Instagram, if you don't know, page for the MMA OGs. I go by the OG, but yeah. Anyways, so how I got into MMA was, man, I remember growing up and watching pro wrestling as a kid. And I remember I think they had Ken Shamrock on there back in the day, and they called him some shit like the world's most dangerous man or something like that. And they talked about how he was an ultimate fighting champion and this and that. So that was kind of like my early intro to it, but I didn't really, I mean, I was too young to know what was going on. But I think kind of like everybody, it really blew up for me when the first season of Tough came around and we had the Griffin Bonner fight. But even before that, man, I was the biggest Chuck Liddell fan. There was something about the dude, just the look, like the blue ice shorts with the mohawk and the tattoo and the way that he was knocking guys out was just unbelievable to me. I remember I was like you. I saw the promo for I think it was the Tito Ortiz fight, I think the second one. And I looked at my old man, I'm like, yo, we're ordering this and I'm inviting like all my little high school friends over to watch this shit, you know? And I remember watching him just go in there and absolutely destroy Tito, and it was just one of those things where I was hooked, you know?
Yeah. Did you end up watching like the ESPN documentary they made about like that whole rivalry with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz? Dude, that was really really good.
Yeah, it was it's definitely a must watch if you haven't seen it. I think it was 30 for 30 or something like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I watched it a couple times.
So like basing off that, so I'm guessing Chuck Liddell was your favorite fighter. I'm guessing throughout your career, or it was kind of one of those like he was what the person that got you into watching MMA, but then like as you kept on watching, you kind of ended up like being a fan of like a hardcore fan of someone else.
No, like I mean, I've got a couple of guys that excuse me, follow religiously, but Chuck was like the first one for me, you know? I remember watching I had to watch every one of his fights, and I specifically can remember a time I ordered the him and Rashad Evans pay-per-view. I can't remember if I think he might have just lost to Rampage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might have been his comeback fight after it or something like that. But I remember sitting down and, watching it with my old man, and he was pushed again. He had Rashad pushed against the cage. Rashad threw that overhand right and just fucking dropped him. And like, my old man knew how big of a Chuck Liddell fan I was, and like we looked at each other, and like not a word was said for probably a good, 2, 3 minutes, and then it was just like, holy fuck, my heart like broke my heart, bro. Absolutely broke my heart.
Yeah, and it's crazy how though, right? Like, let's say like you're watching your favorite fighter, like it's just a different feel when you're watching, right? Like, legitimately hearts racing. It's like legitimately every little single thing that they do, let's say right, you're like, oh yeah, yeah, look like this is where the tide starts changing and everything like that. But then like after a while, you start starting to see that like, yeah, this isn't gonna change anywhere anytime soon. I mean, that was the way for me. So like for me, like every time Chael Sonnen fought, I mean, we
Yeah.
all saw how his last couple of fights went. So it's kind of like legitimately like the moment that like let's say for example the John Jones fight, right? Legitimately the first 10 seconds, Chael's just coming right at him like a dude just set on a mission, and then after that is I mean, we all saw what happened. John Jones just
Yeah.
became John Jones and beat him on a broken toe. So
Yeah, I mean, Chael's a blown up 185er at 205 anyways. I think we were just all biting into his promos and hoping for a miracle, you know.
yeah, like you said though, it was like he definitely like catch on to that niche about the pro wrestling
Oh
fans.
yeah,
And I
man.
mean, I'm a pro wrestling fan too, so it's like the moment I started seeing him talk all that crap with whether it would be to Anderson, Jones, he didn't really talk that much crap to Rashad because I'm guessing they trained a little bit. But regardless, I mean, like I said, he did latch onto that pro wrestling niche that like I feel now Colby Covington's kind of got on that fan base a little bit. I mean, obviously not to get a little political, but he's kind of gone to his little realm. But
Yeah. You
but
know what? It's almost like a lost art. The art of trash talking and doing it well because man, there's so few guys that can actually pull off a good promo or like a good shoot, as they like to call it in the wrestling world, you know? And fuck man, the guys that can do it in MMA and are, you know, are actually can actually fight, those are the guys you see absolutely blow up. Like I mean, McGregor is obviously the perfect example, but yeah, like you said, Colby Covington, and a lot of people like to hate on him and this and that, and man, that's part of his gimmick, you
yeah,
know. Like people can say he took it too far and this and that, and I don't know where to draw the line anymore, but I just feel like society as a whole is definitely very, very sensitive at the moment, and there is a line. I'll give them that. There is a line on certain subjects, but I do enjoy a good promo, and I do enjoy seeing people get reactions out of people, as long as it's not, you know, obviously borderline racism and shit like that. Like I don't condone anything like that, but
definitely.
if you can pull off a promo that gets people triggered and kind of in their feelings, and then you go out and fight and make them feel like they're either going to cheer for you or you want to boo the fuck out of them, like, oh man, that's gold. That's gold for me.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what Dana said, though. I mean, like you said, like there is a line, but at the end of the day, we have to remember, I mean, these two people are going into a cage to just beat the living crap out of each other, right? Obviously, at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's a sport, but like basically the basic of it is pretty much it's a fight. So obviously, whatever sells pay-per-views, like you said, whatever gets eyeballs to watch the fights, you have to give him credit. You have to give Colby credit from where it goes from there. But before we keep on moving on, and like, I want to know though, who was your pro wrestling guy? Who's your guy that made you want to stay and watch wrestling? And I don't know if you still do, but if you
Yeah.
do, please let us know.
Oh, bro, I'm a huge AEW fan at the moment. I'm like, I was watching it before they got the cable deal and stuff like that.
Mm,
I was because I grew up in the Attitude Era of wrestling, right? So
mm,
wrestling had missed that kind of grit and kind of, you know, passion, and everything was kind of missing from it for a long time. And, you know, they kind of brought it all back with AEW. But yeah, my guy growing up was Stone Cold Steve Austin, man.
two
He
beers
was,
sitting on the turnbuckle.
oh, yeah, dude. I still have like stickers in my room somewhere, and I probably have a t shirt or two. Like, he was just, man, he was the guy, you know, like nobody could get a reaction like he could.
Mm.
Um, you know, I'll go watch some of his old promos from back in the day, and the crowd is just fucking eating it up, man. So yeah,
And
that was my guy.
and it's crazy though too. It's like let's say like the younger generation, they don't understand like how important Stone Cold was for pro wrestling. I mean, also The Rock too. But the thing is, like now people look at The Rock more as an actor. But dude, like that Rock and Stone Cold rivalry, game changer without a doubt.
Yeah, man. It's very, again, back to cutting promos. It's very hard to capture an audience, and those guys were able to do it. Man, they just accomplished it on another level. Like the only guy that's really relevant right now that is still doing it on a regular basis is Chris Jericho. The
Mm.
guy's been able to sustain his career for fucking like 30 years and keep reinventing himself, and a lot of these guys should take notes because it's unbelievable what he's been able to do.
And like you said though, he's like honestly like one of the only people that can reinvent himself. So is it kind of like, would you put him in the GOAT conversation? I know there's been like small discussions about putting Jericho at the top echelon of like, Mount Rushmore for wrestling. Because like you said, it's like he's reinvented himself from like Y2J
Yeah.
to that kind of like corporate kind of like, suit look that had the little serious look So
Yeah.
his little thing with Kevin Owens, say what was it, the list, and then now it's like a
Oh
little
my
bit of the
God.
bubbly
Yeah.
with the inner circle.
Yeah. He's genius, like I've shown his stuff to people that don't like wrestling,
Mm.
and they're pissing themselves laughing, and I'm like, that's how you know this guy is legit. When I can show something to someone that has no interest in what I'm showing them, but I can get them to sit through a full video of it, that's when you know there's some serious talent there. So yeah, I'd put him up. I'd put him right up there for sure.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. I mean, it's pretty cool that, like, especially in his inner circle, he has Jack Hager that he's definitely got into the MMA realm. I know his last fight was a little
You know what,
controversial,
bro?
but
You know what? Let me go off on that for a second
I
because
gotcha.
because uh I get so frustrated. Like, dude, it's Jake Hager. Like, obviously MMA fans are so picky sometimes, and I feel like they just don't. They put the blinders on about a guy, and they just see, oh, Jake Hager, he's a pro wrestler, and blah blah blah, and it's like, man, this guy doesn't have an MMA background. Like, it's basically taking some dude with, athletic ability, more athletic ability than the average human being.
Mhm.
But man, he's just a beginner. And guys get in there and they're like, "Oh, he fought a fucking can." Like, they're just feeding him cans, and it's like, "No, the dude is a can." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
he's not
yeah.
like, not in the sense that he's dog shit, but in the sense that he's new. He's brand new to the sport, man. They're not going to get in there and throw him in with a guy that has fucking 30 fights.
Mm.
He'll get the shit beat out of him. So,
Another CM Punk situation.
yeah, dude, I get so frustrated when I see people saying that, oh, they're feeding these pro wrestlers cans. Like, no, they're feeding him guys that are on his level. Like,
Mm.
he's had what, 3 or 4 fights now, so
Yeah, I think about 4 fights. Yeah, 4 fights to be exact.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the same with Aaron Pico, right? They
Hmm.
put him on this hype train and they hyped him up, and he got knocked out a couple times, but at the same time, they shouldn't have hyped him up that much because he's only had a couple fights.
Hmm.
That's what kind of gets me going a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's like at the end of the day, like, let's say you're the head of the promotion, it's like you're trying to make stars. So
Hmm.
if you see something in a super, if you see something in a fighter, it's like you said, it's like you have to build them up to be that person that you want them to be. So, like you said,
Yeah.
MMA fans, they get on my nerves too, especially when they just start going all out on someone that's just like, oh, he's just another hype train. I mean, for example, Adesanya was experiencing some hate for a little while when he was on the come up. McGregor, we already know everyone hates him now because we already know that Dana has a preferential treatment for Connor, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely, brother, definitely. But yeah, dude, to bring it back for circle to you. So, you just said the way you got into MMA. So let me ask you. So, how'd you get into like wanting to be in the world of MMA? So, like for me specifically, I really want to be reporting, broadcasting. Be in that whole medium role from MMA, like kind of be
Yeah.
like an Errol Hawani or a Brett Okamoto, interview fighters. So would that be the same thing for you, or you just kind of want to just create your own brand and kind of be your own, like kind of like the way the Schmoes kind of build his empire?
Yeah, see, I'm a big fan of the Schmo, and I actually DM'd him when I was like first starting up my account. I was making some. They weren't great videos, but I was just hyping on myself. I was getting a couple of reactions on Instagram, so I'm like, oh fuck, I'll shoot my shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, he actually took the time and he got back to me a couple times, man. He's like,
Oh, that's
hey,
awesome.
bro, like, yeah, he's like, hey, bro, I see you're working, like, keep working, you're gonna get better. It's only up from here. And I was like, fuck, that's so cool, man, for you to do that. So yeah, I'd definitely like to go the schmo route where I would, kind of have my own brand and just be my own face and be recognized that way. But yeah, it all started last year. I went to Vegas for UFC 245 with a buddy of mine, and we're both love
That was
MMA,
the
right?
Usman Covington card, correct?
It was,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And we're like everybody, just huge MMA fans, right? And we kind of have like we have a good knowledge of the sport. You know what I mean? We know shit that other people wouldn't. And
Mm-hmm.
we're nerds in a sense, right? So we got there, and there was this grappling event going on the Thursday night. It was called Quintet Ultra, and it was kind of like a submission underground kind of thing where they took guys from Pride, WEC, Strike Force, and UFC, and it was like a submission kind of tournament thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we showed up at the hotel. It was the Red Rock Hotel, and that's was actually where all the fighters were staying for 245. They're staying at the Red Rock.
Mm.
So we went there and we're kind of seeing if there was tickets or whatever. And the lady's like, yeah, we're gonna sell them in a bit, sell them at the gate. And we paid, I think we paid fucking $25 or something like that. And
Mm.
it was unbelievable, bro. It was like a who's who of MMA that night. It was almost like I don't know if not a lot of people heard about it or if it was just kind of you know, a thing between the fighters in the community, but fucking everybody showed out that night, man. Yeah, we paid $25 and we sat right at the entrance of where these guys were to walk into the mat that they were grappling on, and
Yeah.
right beside us was this VIP section for the fighters. So the fighters would go and they would grapple, and then they'd basically get out and walk to the VIP section and drink beers. Um, we were sitting beside Carrie Melendez the whole night. She was sitting there talking with us, like because Gilbert was in there with Jake Shields and Strikeforce and shit. So we just sat and bullshitted with Carrie Melendez. But man, we met everybody that night. We met Sakuraba, we met Mark Coleman, we
Oh,
met
that's awesome,
fucking,
bro.
yeah, it was unbelievable, right? Like Mark Coleman was the coach for Matt Brown, and Matt Brown was running down the hallway in a fucking sauna suit trying to cut weight during this whole thing. It was bizarre, right?
Uh,
Um, excuse me. So yeah, going through that whole night, watching the event, meeting all these fighters, just seeing everybody being super chill, it kind of made us felt like we were part of like the little community there, like kind of like we fit in for a little bit for a day. And man, I looked at my buddy after that night and I'm like, I'm gonna do this, like I was walking around, I was talking to fighters, like ran into Misha Serkinov. I talked to him for a little bit. I was hanging out with Khalil Roundtree, just shooting the shit with him. So I was like, man, I'm rubbing shoulders with these guys already. Like I can do this shit.
mm.
And I looked at him after that and I'm like, bro, I'm gonna do it. I don't care what it takes, but I'm gonna do it. And ever since then, I just put the blinders on. It's kind of like, hey, let's do this, bro. If you're gonna make it happen, you have to make it happen now. So yeah, man, that's kind of the long-winded story.
And that's awesome. So, like you said, so like right after you ended up making your Instagram account, and so like when you make your Instagram account, I'm guessing like the
Mhm.
first couple months, it was it either like a high rise to the top type of thing, you got followers like that, or was it kind of like a slow build, and then like eventually you got that one day that just like let's say like a fighter reposted your thing or something like that, and it just went from there.
Yeah, so it was, man, the first 1,000 followers were like a grind, bro.
Mm.
I was doing this thing, and it's a rarity that I do it now, but every once in a while I'll do one. And I was making these things called bad interviews, and I would take old fighter footage and like interview footage, and I would just ask joke questions and clip them up with stupid clips, kind of thing. And for whatever reason, it caught on, and I was DMing some fighters, and man, I only had a couple hundred followers, but these fighters were starting to follow me and respond and repost my shit, right? And I was like, oh wow, this might be a thing here. Um, but the thing was I was getting reposted by these fighters, but I wasn't getting a huge amount of followers. But excuse me, the thing about it was the people that were following me were consistent and they were commenting on all my shit and DMing me and this and that, right? And I actually, fuck man, I made a joke video of John Jones. Like it was right before his Dom Reyes fight, and I made a joke video of him punching and hitting mitts and shit with like little girl noises, like he would kick the bag and he'd go, hiya, and shit like
Yeah.
that, right? And then one day, like I said, I only had like a couple hundred followers at this time. And all of a sudden my likes kind of blew up one day and I was like, what the fuck? And then somebody DM me. They're like, yo, like John Jones just posted your shit. And I was like, what? And I go to his page and sure enough, like there's my video on fucking 4 million follower John Jones's page. Like he didn't tag me, the prick, like total John Jones move. But
He wasn't
that's
trying to
why
get free clout, bro.
I know that's why I gotta put my tag on all my videos and shit, right? Because that way people can't steal it. But
Mhm.
even off that, that didn't get me to 1,000 followers, man. That was it's a grind. But once you get there and your content is good, people are gonna catch on, and man, after that, the ball just gets rolling. And fuck, man, if you put in the effort and you put the content out there, people are going to respond in a positive way. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how it got going for me.
And that's crazy though. Like it took you like about what, like you said, like year. We're I probably at a year and a half now, correct? Actually, no, it's a year though, right? Because
No,
we're already going into
yeah, I'm
December
like
now.
just under a year now.
Yeah, but I mean that's really is crazy because like for me, like everything happened for me. Because the thing is, I'm a communications major, and then like right
Mhm.
before whole COVID thing happened, I was actually lining up for an internship for like a local radio station here in Massachusetts. That's where I'm based out of. And obviously with the whole COVID thing, they were just like, okay, so we're just gonna put a stop to that hiring process, and then I'm back to square one, and I'm just there like I'm a senior, and I'm over here. I'm like, dude, I need to get some experience somehow, right? So then instead of that, I was just like, you know what? Let me just open up an Instagram page, stop feeling sorry for myself. And like
Mhm.
you said, it's kind of like you. It's like I'm a big MMA fan. Like I like to train jujitsu on the side. Like legitimately everything I do revolves like around the sports. So I was just like, dude, at this point, I might as well make like an update, like a news update channel, and then also like eventually get it to the point that I start interviewing fighters. And yeah, like it's kind of like the same thing as you. So I got to a couple hundred followers on Instagram, and then just grinding, just sending DMs to like fighters, seeing if they can like respond for an interview. And like I get it though, like you know, let's say like you see an account for like with like 300 followers, and they're like, should I do an interview with them?
Yeah.
So like that's why like I always give props to like Johnny Munoz. He was my first fighter that I ever interviewed, UFC bantamweight, and he's only had one fight in the UFC. But like for him to just kind of be like, you know what, dude, like I'm gonna help you out, and then legitimately like one of my friends said, it's like you just need one interview, you just need one foot in the door, and it's gonna go from there. And
Mhm.
yeah, I've gotten the chance to interview who's like Munoz, Johnny Munoz, Anthony Romero that was just on the Contender Series, Kevin
Oh yeah.
Kroom, um, Sam Alvey. I mean, I'm like blanking out right now because like I don't remember. Like I mean, it's not a lot, but still a good amount that I'm like you said, it's like you're starting to feel like good about yourself because I'm like, okay, like the hard work that I'm putting in, it's showing up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So yeah, dude. So like you said, so you opened up your thing. So like you said, you kind of want to ultimately make your own brand. So is it just your Instagram channel that you have, or do you planning on opening up like a YouTube? Do you have your own website already? Or you know, somewhere that you know anybody watching this or listening to this can go to right now.
Yeah, so I'm actually taking a bunch of courses right now. I'm fucking man, I'm grinding. Like you said, I'm in courses like four or five courses right now, and I'm working my way to like a diploma or certificate in TV and video production kind of thing. So I'm learning, excuse me, I'm learning kind of everything right now. I'm learning how to, excuse me, bro.
Oh, it's that Thanksgiving dinner, bro. I got you,
I
brother.
know, I know. Yeah, so I'm learning how to edit videos professionally. I'm learning how to record, I'm learning I'm basically learning everything, how to put it all together. And in that time, I've also been taking a lot of notes, like just watching YouTube tutorials and shit and how people have been getting their page going. But yeah, I've linked up with a couple of graphic designers and I've come up with a logo and a banner. So the ball's rolling on the YouTube channel. OG MMA will be a thing on YouTube in either the next month or the new year. So it is coming. I'm going to have a YouTube channel out there and it's only going to expand from there, man. Like
Mhm.
maybe we'll go the podcast route. Maybe we'll just fucking go the YouTube route. The possibilities are endless at this point, bro.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
And that's awesome. Like you said, it's like, I mean, you know, like when you talk to someone and you already know they're going to make it, because just based off, like you see, like they have that mentality. They're just like, nothing's going to hold me down. Like, dude, I can see that with you. You know what I mean? And like for me, like it gives you so much inspiration, like talking to people like you, or like, you know, like we mentioned before the interview, like Dapper Media or Speakeasy Sports, that like legitimately, like you see that they're grinding like day in and day out. And it kind of goes back to what people said. It's like if you want to be successful, surround yourself around people that are like-minded people. So like I said, I mean, I really appreciate you giving me this interview. But before like, you know, we end the interview, I gotta ask you, dude, like, do you train, or do you ever want to get into training like about like jujitsu, boxing, or like any type of martial art, or you already been doing it for I don't know how long?
Yeah, so I started boxing when I was 16. I grew up, my grandpa he knew a lot about the sport, and he was one of those guys that he kind of followed boxing the way I did MMA. And I can remember him telling my old man about how, oh, you got to watch out for this Klitschko guy. He's going to be the next big thing and this and that. And sure enough, he's talking about the fucking Klitschko brothers who are the heavyweight champions, right? So I kind of took the inspiration for that because he loved the sport. And I started seeing some articles in the local newspaper and about a boxing gym in my area. And I was like, fuck, you know what? I'm 16 years old. I don't know who I am. I was a little scrawny kid back then. I was maybe like, 5'6" and like 100 pounds soaking wet. Just a little kid. But I
Mm.
was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go train. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put my mind to it and I'm gonna do it because I'm sick of playing these team sports and I want to do something that I can feel accomplished in, something that scares me.
Mm.
So yeah, man, I think I had my first fight at 16 years old, and fuck, I got my ass kicked, man. Absolutely. I had all my buddies there, and my parents were there, and I got in this ring. It might even have been a little bit too soon because I was, I hadn't even been training a year. I'd done some sparring and shit like that. And I got in there with a kid who was way more experienced than me. Like the kid only had maybe 2 fights, but you could tell he'd been training for fucking ever, right? Because I mean, when you're a beginner and you're 16 years old, you don't know shit, right?
Mm.
And everybody's first fight, you go in there and everything you taught, as soon as that bell rings, you just goes out the window, right?
Mm.
So I'm going in there and I'm fucking getting picked off with jabs. Just, my nose starts bleeding. And anyways, I think the kid stopped me in like the third round or something like
God
that. Like
damn,
he
man.
didn't knock me down or nothing, but I was just bleeding. And the ref was like, you know what? Waved it off. So anyways, I remember getting out of the ring and looking at my old man. He goes, so you want to keep doing this? And I looked at him. I had blood all over my jersey and my face. I was like, fucking right, I'm gonna do this. And man, I ended up fighting for 10 more years. I fought from the time I was 16 to about 26. I ended up with like 20 or so amateur fights. I was the amateur champ in my province of British Columbia at 2 different weight classes. I was gonna take a pro fight, but I was just a fucking idiot and partied it all away. I was one of those guys that I worked hard. I played 2 times harder. I would train for a fight and I would kill myself training and getting in shape. And then as soon as the fight was over, win or lose, I fucking partied for way too long. So yeah, it was good, man. It taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot about the sport. Maybe not so much about jujitsu and wrestling and shit like that, but when it comes to stand up, man, like it helped me understand MMA a lot, and it also helped me communicate with people and kind of be able to explain to them what's going on in the ring. Like whenever I go and I watch fights with people, people kind of lean towards me because they know that I've been in there and I've had that experience, right? So I think if you have any sort of aspect in the background of mixed martial arts, whether you were a wrestler or you just did some jits classes or anything, that's going to benefit you, man, because people are going to give you that respect because they know that you've been in there and you've seen that shit before. So yeah, man, I'm a little bit slower. I'm a little bit dumber from all the sparring and the punches in the
Oh,
head,
man.
but man, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, I know. And like you said though, it's like especially if like I mean, not just people giving you that respect, but it also kind of teaches you to be a better person. You know what I mean? Be more humble. Because the thing is,
Mhm.
like, I don't know if it was Frost Hobby or Joe Rogan that it's kind of like, dude, like you get your ass kicked in the gym, like, dude, why would you go up and like puff up your chest and then act like you're all that? Which like like what are the consequences of like let's say you just run into like let's say like a world champion boxer on the street and just because you think you had like one good day in the gym, like he'll show you what's up. So, I mean, that's awesome, dude. Like I said, it's boxing or whatever martial art you do. It's kind of like it's awesome. I always encourage people to do it. You know what I mean? Like in
Yeah.
my realm, I always like every time I talk to someone, like legitimately, like 10 minutes into the conversation, I'm like, "Have you ever heard about jujitsu? Trying to get into it?" And it's like,
Yeah, bro.
yeah.
You know what? It humbles you, man. It
Mm,
totally humbles you because you see these guys that are out there and like you said, they're all, walking around like this and they got a chip on their shoulder. You know why they're like that? It's because they've never had their ass kicked before, bro.
mm,
Like And those are the guys that I love because they try and they act like that in front of you, and it's like in my head I'm thinking like, bro, I've had my ass kicked before. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the worst you're gonna do to me? Beat my ass again?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, man. I'm not gonna walk away. I'm not gonna stand here and be intimidated and let you feed your fucking ego. You know, I was never the guy to stand there and like be intimidated or try to start a fight. But at the same time, if some fucking juice monkey or some guy that thinks he's tough is acting up in the bar or trying to, you know, get in one of my buddies' faces, I'll intervene, but I'll be like kind of like the calming guy, you know. I'll walk in with a straight face and be like, look, bro, like why are we doing this right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if they get in your face, like you said, it's a different feeling because you know that you've been in a fight before. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not so much scared or anything like that. You're just kind of like, look, man, if you're gonna do it, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
It's like if you're about that life, be about that life, right?
Yeah, man. If you're feeling froggy, fucking leap, bro. Because it's either
Yeah.
gonna go one of two ways. I'm gonna get my ass kicked, or I'm gonna beat your fucking ass. So let's do it, you know.
Definitely, brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So, like I said, man, I mean, that's pretty much all I have for you today, man. Like I said earlier, man, like I really appreciate the time, especially, for someone, for a page as big as yours, I mean, to, give a page like mine, just, some time to like, know about your experience, stuff that I can get like inspiration about from like, and growing the page and then just knowing about your story, dude. Like, I really appreciate the time. It really means a lot. So before we go, do you want to plug in like all your social media handles at the bottom, and then yeah, go from there, brother.
Yeah, word. So, I mean, the OG MMA YouTube channel is coming soon, so it'll just be OG MMA on YouTube, and my Instagram right now is at OGShawnymack, and yeah, that's about it for me, social media wise. My DMs are always open. Like I said, you know, if anybody wants to shoot the shit about MMA, whether you like my opinion, whether you don't, whether you want to talk about the fights this weekend, whether you want to talk about your favorite fighter, whether you just want somebody to fucking talk to, hit up my DMs. It's always open. I got time for everybody. Got time for all the takes. But if you're gonna come into my DMs, you better come correct. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try and slide in my DMs with no weak ass take because I'm gonna throw that shit in your face.
That's
and
all.
uh, and like I said, bro, I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and yeah, it's really cool to be able to connect like this with people that love the sport of mixed martial arts. So it's much appreciated on my end too, brother.
Definitely, definitely. And to everyone watching, have a good day. Make sure to like and subscribe, and peace.